Hi, friends. I'm Nancy Fox.
And I'm Elaine Doran. Welcome to the very first episode of Deep Diving Divas. Yay!
Yay!
We are your hosts, and we are very excited to dive deep into the things of stories of people's reinvention, of passion, and most of all, their purpose, our purpose in life.
So on this episode, I know you're all wondering, what the heck is our show all about? And we're going to give you a little sneak peek into some of the fabulous guests we're going to be having that have done just an amazing reinvention with themselves and hopefully will motivate. And finally, we're going to share a little bit about Elaine and my background. A lot of you out there are friends and family, you know it, but so many of you don't. So on that note, let's get started.
Hey there, friends, it's Nancy and Elaine. They're the Deep Diving Divas, it's quite a name. They're diving deep into the things that matter most, from friendships to family and so much more. Join them each week for a splash of fun.
You know, with the magic of technology, we are here, both of us in California. But I am in Studio City. Some of you might know where that is.
And I'm in San Luis Obispo, and that's north of LA.
So, Nancy, before
yes,
sir, how in the heck did we get here? It's been months, actually, probably 9 months. Like you said, it's like having a baby.
Yeah. But this is better for us at this stage of our lives, right? Anyways, Elaine, about 9 months ago, I had this idea for a podcast. I'm a podcast junkie. I listen to them all the time, and I've learned so much. And I thought, many years ago, one of my dear friends coined me the Deep Diving Diva. Why? Because I love to go on the deep dive with shopping and products and new food finds, and anything deep diving, even medical. And so I thought, wouldn't it be great to have a podcast? And I thought about it, but I didn't want to be a one lady band. And so I wanted a partner on this one. And the only person I wanted was you, Elaine. And there was a reason. Over 30 years ago, you were our PR agent when we had our restaurants, Nancy's Healthy Kitchen. And we worked so well together and we played so well together. And I just knew that what we had together was magical. So I called you up, and what did you say?
I said, Nancy, the first thing I thought of is that you wanted me to do the PR for your podcast because I'd been doing that for so long. And you said, no, I want you to be the co-host. And it was like, what? I'm finally going to get my chance at stardom. This was so exciting. I was just thrilled. And it's been such an experience working with you all these years. And there's, like I said, there's so much that I want to say about you. And I'm just honored and pleased to be a part of this whole project.
Thank you. And I really hope that what our show really is all about is finding your passion. If you're at a certain age, you could be in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s, and you've just not high on life like Elaine and I are. We're going to have some really inspiring guests that hopefully will turn on that little light bulb that will get you inspired. It doesn't have to be the end-all career, but it might be a new hobby, just a new passion, something that's going to want to get you to jump out of bed every morning and excited to start the day.
You know, and when I think about that, Nancy, I think about it more about giving people, I guess, the courage to be brave and to know that this isn't the end of the road, because so many people just really think that they're afraid and they've lost their confidence, or maybe they never had the confidence. So I think when you hear our guests speaking and then you hear about Nancy and I and what we've done, it is possible for people to reinvent themselves, no matter whether it's just in your home or out there in the world. So this is a chance again for the next 50.
And Elaine, you know, as we've all said, we all have an expiration date. And the thing is, though, you just don't know when. So I've told you for a long time. I'm on the 30-year plan. You know, to me, there's not enough days in the week, hours in the day to accomplish everything I want to accomplish. And I have a feeling you're kind of like that.
Nancy, I sometimes I think that I don't ever have to meet Martha Stewart because you are my Martha Stewart. I've never seen anybody work like you work as fast as you do. I always thought I was fast, that I talked fast, that I did everything, but you've got me beat, and that you are just constantly thinking. I think you reinvent yourself every day. So it's a beautiful inspiration and motivation. I have been motivated by you just even in these last months that we've been working so closely again. And I can't tell you the changes you've made for me, what you've done in just a short time. You could be a therapist. You can be a hairstylist. You can be a designer, a cook. It's just a lot of things. So now we need to get started and tell our friends out there a little bit more about who we are, because I think they know how much we love each other.
Well, Elaine, that's for sure. So Elaine, for you, I know that you started out teaching way before I met you in PR. So was that your lifelong dream when you were growing up? How did that start?
It's such a funny story because it would not be a lifelong dream for anyone that ever had me as a student in high school.
Why?
Because I was a goof off. I mean, I wasn't a bad girl, but I talked a lot. And I just, wasn't a very good student. I was so interested in just having friends and having a good time. That's what school was for me. It was not about studying or what I was going to be doing or where I was going to college or any of that stuff.
By the way, that's wild. That really surprises me because I was a major goody two-shoes and I thought you were too. I never wanted to get in trouble. Always listened to the teacher. So that really surprises me about you.
It was a mix.
In a good way.
Yeah. A mischievous, I guess, just drove him a little bit crazy. And, so, when I was teaching, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, how did I end up here? And it was very funny because one of my first students that I had in a class ended up being the son of one of my teachers when I was in high school, who I made crazy in my senior year. And when I found out that he was in my class, I thought his father's going to march down to the office and pull him out of my class because he had me as a teacher. But anyway, it is a long story, but I did it it was kind of an emergency decision. I was breaking up with a boyfriend when I was going to school in Colorado. And the only excuse I could think of for coming back to California was that I needed to come back to California and get a teaching credential in California. And I made that up because my sister was a teacher and I thought, what other reason can I leave Colorado for? So it turns out that I taught for 13 years. I loved every minute of it. It was the most wonderful gift. And it also was a platform, a beginning for me for my other businesses that followed after that.
So what was after that? What made you leave teaching?
Yes. There was a major trauma and crisis in our personal life with my husband and Richard and I and a family member, which we will talk about at another time. But that was a real epiphany. It was an opportunity still at a young age, at the age of probably 34, that I needed to make a career change. I needed to move myself out of a very personal experience with with young kids and move on. And at the same time, I was also pursuing my acting career, which I was doing even when I was teaching. I taught drama in high school and junior high, middle school. So I was part of a group called Women in Film and was on the board, the executive board. And at the time was selected to be in charge of coordinating events, which I had no idea what that meant. I thought that meant moving your hands and your legs at the same time, but it does. Yes, it does require that. Anyway, I found out that there was a whole nother world out there for public relations, marketing, fundraising. And I went back to UCLA, took all 9 classes and their extension classes, and had a credential in that and began to coordinate events, which is a whole other story, and due to public relations and marketing, and doing that and still doing that for the last 30 years.
And that's where we met when I said that we hired you as our PR firm. So Elaine, when we had a restaurant, which was my second career, we looked high and low. We were meeting with many PR agents because we'd never hired one before. And I have to say with you were a one lady band, but that appealed to me very much, not a bigger institution. And you came dashing into the restaurant. I loved your vibe. You were wearing bright pink and turquoise and little kitten heels. heels and you stormed in, and Alan and I met you, and it was really love at first sight.
Wow.
But what was unique about your PR approach, I know you had a lot of clients before us, during us, after us, and yet you had this great ability to make us feel like we were your only client. You were so attentive, so enthusiastic, so supportive, and so complimentary all throughout the years we worked with you.
Well, Nancy, it was very easy to do because you, Nancy's Healthy Kitchen, and Alan, it was like a PR gift from heaven to have a client that had so much to offer, had an amazing story to tell, and your products were fabulous. So it was easy for me because all I had to do was to get the word out there. Well, it wasn't that easy. It was a challenge.
You made it look easy. That's the key.
You made it easy because, Nancy, I just want to share with everybody how amazing it is. And some of you, many of you probably know, especially if you live here in Southern California, or know from the past about Mrs. Beasley's baked goods. And Nancy, this is the Nancy Fox behind that, who is so humble and so relatable, but she's always kept herself a little bit under the radar. And I don't know why, because now the whole world's going to know who you are, because you can see from the background what's there with all that fabulous product and marketing we'll talk about. But Nancy, you were the first person, and you'll tell your story. I mean, what you did in the 80s with baked goods and delivery service and the ideas that you came up with and the promotions and the marketing when you had Mrs. Beasley's. And you were like the star child for the Hollywood entertainment industry, because anybody who was anyone always got your products. That was it. And anyone that was having babies, anyone that was having weddings and parties and condolences or whatever it was, everybody ordered from Mrs. Beasley's. So
Elaine, in 1980, fresh out of college, had this idea with my sister, Lisa Blondes, to open this bakery that you're talking about. And in those days, we were home style baking. We didn't have breads and we weren't a typical bakery, but we had this idea to create all kinds of muffins and chocolate chip and poppy seed, lemon, pistachio, really unique flavors, and bake them in mini muffin form. And then we created these handmade gift baskets lined with a gingham cloth napkin. Yeah. And we lined them with all kinds of homemade cookies and brownies, and then mounted them with these mini muffins. And then they were baked that day, assembled that day, and hand delivered that day. Yeah. And so it was such a novel idea that we instantly took off. It was one of those chain letters. You know, there was no internet. There was no big growth with, Instagram and Facebook and having a website. We literally went word of mouth. One person would receive a basket. They loved it. It was so novel. They sent out 3, then they sent out 3. And so we opened in August of 80. And by October, Bon Appetit discovered us. Remember the magazine? And they wrote an article about us. And so did Women's Day magazine. And I am telling you, we exploded. And so our very first holiday, we had to take our phone off the hook. Every muffin that we were baking or brownie or cookie was always already promised.
How many of you were in the kitchen? I mean, was it just
so it was my sister and I, and actually we talked our old housekeeper into baking. Oh. And my mom manned the front. My mom was my mom, Roberta. She said, "Oh, girls, I'll come and help you for a couple weeks." Yeah. She stayed 5 years.
Did she?
She was incredible, but she came every holiday. So the reality is we built it up. My husband got involved. Yes. We opened up ultimately 3 locations. One at Fred Siegel, one at Beverly Hills. And we were doing during Christmas 2,000 gift baskets a day, hand delivered.
Wait, you said 2,000, not you don't mean 200.
No. And there was, remember the old fashioned Thomas guide?
Yes.
No internet. My husband ran our production facility. He had to map out all the private couriers, individual couriers. They'd map out, you take Beverly Hills, you take Brentwood, you take Encino, Malibu, all over the LA area. And because we were so big in Hollywood, it went to every major record industry, movie producer, movie director, the movie studios, the actors, I mean, it was really quite astounding.
And and there was the personal touch too of having it delivered. You didn't have a company. There was no DoorDash. There was no Uber.
No.
So there was no Waymo car delivering it with nobody.
No, oh my goodness, no. And we hand delivered our note. And so it was really considered hot from Hollywood, the gift to give. But we did it for 10 years. Like I said, my husband, Alan, helped build it up and we sold it. And then my sister went into a short retirement before. She's a great designer and she designed a line of jewelry. And I stayed with Mrs. Beasley's to consult for about 4 years.
I didn't know
But
that.
but during that time, I wanted to get my husband and I healthy. We had 2 small kids at that point. I was only eating sugar, so I had to kind of, dry out. And 4 years later, I developed a line of healthy cookies and cakes and foods in my kitchen. And so I decided, I'm a working mom with young kids. I want to make a safe haven, a one-stop shopping where you can come in and have a healthy meal.
Yes.
Buy a gift basket or put together our packaged cookies here and all guilt-free. And so that's how Nancy's Healthy Kitchen was born. And that's how you and I and our partnership was born, Elaine.
That's right, Nancy. That's when it started, when, going to your restaurant first in Tarzana. But it's just the brainchild. I guess what it is that it's never being afraid to take a chance. And I don't know if people are born with that or, what makes us be like that. Whatever the ingredient is, because we continue to do it again. I mean, on my background, even at the time that I was doing PR, I was still involved with theater and, still acting. I was teaching acting, which was great with kids that were in middle school. So I was doing that. And then, another part of my career again was I then went back to doing creative writing and in the last 5 years have been taking a fabulous writing class. That's for those people that are, over the age and, writing about moments in our life. And I hope that during the show, I'll be able to share some of these stories and I hope it'll inspire all of you to start writing, just writing something that's only 300 words, but it's just a little moment in your life. And so that's been another career. And here we are at our podcast, at our YouTube.
Isn't it wild? And Elaine, after, when we decided to get out of Dodge, and so we sold Nancy's Healthy Kitchen, but we kept our packaged cookies and our claim to fame on our packaged cookies. I'm going to grab one.
Are there any cookies in there still?
No cookies in here. It's an empty box. But our claim to fame is we were featured on Oprah's favorite gift show.
Yes.
And she did a whole song and dance about the cookies. It was really exciting. But the reality is, getting out of Dodge, moving to San Luis Obispo to raise our kids and be, basically our sons both had stay-at-home parents then. But talking about reinventing, I was itching to do something and yet I wanted to kind of be home. So I started my online recipe site, which is skinnykitchen.com. And it's all my passions, my Nancy's Healthy Kitchen recipes, my Mrs. Beasley's recipes remade, skinnified. And so it's got over 800 recipes and I got to continue my passion.
You will start cooking because so many people today that I know are, really using DoorDash and all the delivery services. They've forgotten how to cook and they don't want to take the time. But I'm telling you, Nancy, it started me doing it again. And I think that all of you will want to do it and be motivated because there are so many things there that are really, simple recipes, delicious, low calorie, low fat. So, you've done that over and over again.
Well, Elaine, what I plan to do actually with your encouragement throughout the shows, maybe once a month, maybe a couple times a month, with our show being once a week, I'm going to do cooking segments. So I'm going to do some of the favorites, all easy and all skinnified.
Right.
So Elaine, before we go, I want to make sure we have time to talk about some of the topics that we're going to be covering and the types of guests we're going to be having.
Okay. One second. Can I just say one thing before?
Sure.
Okay. But I just want to say that besides all of this wonderful paraphernalia behind you, you also have 2 cookbooks that you wrote. Okay. And you have appeared because you had this fabulous PR person on so many television shows, fitting it in and, and the Home and Garden show and the Home show. And we even have one of our guests who was one of the producers of the programs that you've been on. And so you are a star. And
you're so sweet. You know what? I love doing what I do. It's clear I'm passionate, and I really like to share. So for years, I gave cooking classes. A little known fact, Gelson's used to have a cooking school, gave a lot of, classes there. And really my style of cooking and baking, instead of people watching a show and saying, oh my goodness, I could never do that, they really look at me and say, oh, I could do that, because I'm a home style cook and baker.
I told you years ago, I said, you're user friendly. Before we even had computers, you just made it look very easy for everybody. Like, I can go home and I'm going to make that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's tell people, Nancy, some of the people that we're going to have on the show. And as we've said before, these are people that we want to get the message across that they're inspiring. And that they also have had challenges, sometimes personal, business challenges in their life, but that they have reinvented themselves, particularly in the later part of their life, which is really what makes the story so interesting. I mean, we have someone who wrote a book that she wrote in her 60s. It was something after she met the Beatles. I don't know if I can say that. So it's really exciting. We have somebody who is going to tell us what to do with all the mess in our closets, how to organize your life and declutter. What else?
Don't we all need that? My goodness. Yeah. That guess is going to be incredible. And then we have one of my dear friends that is deemed the wardrobe whisperer, because she's going to go in and help us all zhuzh our closet. I mean, we're all guilty of looking in our closet, stuff full of clothes. You get to a certain age like we are. Yes. And yet you say, I have nothing to wear. So she's going to make us re-fall in love with our closet.
And, the other thing is that we have someone who is a very well-known therapist, and she is going to talk about really what makes a good friendship. And sometimes those friendships are not always the healthiest for us. And so I think that it's important, particularly as women, because we are so sensitive and emotionally involved, to share some of those things and some guidelines that are going to help us through some of those challenges.
Well, what I like to say about that is that, hey, we've all learned over the years how to break up with a boyfriend, a husband, a partner, but no one ever teaches us. Sometimes you have to let a friendship go. So how do you break up with a friend?
Right.
And then finally, we're going to do really fun things. We're going to come up with the latest and the greatest and share our food finds or our gift ideas, just everything to make your life simpler.
And so one more other great guest. She was on Shark Tank.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yeah.
And I won't tell the end. But anyway, we've just got a lineup of great people that are just going to be fun, and it keeps coming, and people keep calling us with ideas and wanting to be on the show, which has been great.
Which is really exciting. And so, Elaine, what we really want to tell all of you, if you like any of these ideas, we're really user friendly. We want you to email us. Give us your ideas. What would you like us to talk about? What would you like us to cover? What kind of guests? Or if you think you'd be the perfect guest because you continue to reinvent yourself, email us, thedeepdivingdivas @gmail.com. And guess what, everybody? You might be listening to our podcast, but we're also on YouTube. We know, come on, let's face it, with us women here, we're visual. We like to see each other. And if you want to see what we look like, what we're wearing, what we're talking about, do you like our makeup?
You want to see how many times my hair has changed? If you huge major mistakes, then you can vote on it. Yeah.
Right. Or the fashion mistakes we've made, and all of that. Yeah. We're here to have fun, have a blast, laugh with you, maybe cry with you. Look at life is a roller coaster, and that's a good thing. It would be really boring if it was just flatlined. And so it's not like Elaine and I haven't had our traumas, our emotional heartbreaks, but we have tried throughout our life to really keep ourselves up. And if you're that person that struggles with that, hey, we're here for you. And we hope that as you hear more about our lives, that we motivate you to say, okay, I can pick myself up because they have too.
Because I know when they've heard our stories, or my story particularly, sometimes they'll say, Elaine, I don't know how you kind of went on and have done what you've done, and you don't ever really discuss it or carry it around on your back. So we hope that will transfer to all of you. Well, we can continue talking forever.
I know, but we better go. So before we go, one last thing.
Okay.
If you want to join us on any of the social media, we're first of all on YouTube. So subscribe at Deep Diving Divas.
Please.
Or join us on Instagram, Facebook at Deep Diving Divas. We're going to post throughout the week some fun videos. We're going to throw out food for thought, maybe some quotes. So we want our pages to be interactive.
Yes.
And guess what? We are the Deep Diving Divas, but you're our divas.
I know.
So come on, divas.
I love it.
Join us.
And that's it. It's great.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
It's been fun. Love the first
Bye.
one. Bye-bye.